Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting podcast. Seems like forever since I've done one of these podcasts. It's only been a few weeks, but because we're so used to churning them out week after week, this mini off season that we have at the end of the year with regards to the UFC and MMA in general, even though there was a couple of events over Christmas, just seems to make it seem like it's been forever since we had a UFC. So I'm dropping the UFC 246 podcast today. It's pretty early. Reason being is I did a lot of the tape before Christmas. So I'm a little bit worried. I'll leave it another week. I'm going to have forgotten literally everything. I don't have the best memory. So I'm going to drop it today just before I do forget everything. As I said, most of the fights I did before Christmas. So I'm hoping I can remember everything that I took in from tape. So we're going to go through all the fights as usual. What we're going to do firstly is, as we always do, we're just going to recap. And this being the first one of the new year, we're going to recap on last year and how we did on the last event. We had the last UFC event, so I've not spoken about those results as we've not had a pod since. And we also had Ryzen, which we had a bet on, which was on New Year's Eve. So if we just quickly cap over how we done there. So the last UFC of the year was the one in South Korea back on the 19th of December now. We had two bets on that card that were sent to members. We had a max 4-unit bet on Pantoja, which cashed for us at about minus 190. We managed to get that bet sent out when the odds were pretty solid. And we also had a unit on the heavyweight fight, Gain versus Bosa, to go over 1.5 rounds. That was priced at about minus 140, I think. We had a unit on that cashed as well, so we took home just under 3 units profit on that event. With regards to live betting, didn't really get any live bets in on that particular event, but we managed to take 0.35 units profit. We put a unit down on Rakic's decision after round 1, but we bought out of that. I can't remember, I think it was during round 2 now. We put a unit on, I think it was at the end of round 2, we put a unit on Vulcan at plus 135, and I thought Rakic deserved the decision, but Vulcan actually got it, so we came out with profit, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world for us. There was also a boxing event on the, I think it was the Friday before the UFC in South Korea. Let me just double check the date. No, it was actually on the Thursday before the UFC event, so we had live betting for members on the Thursday where we took home just under 4 units profit. It was just live betting, and we managed to cash the draw on the Richard Sudkin fight. Tipped it at, it was 20 to 1. Tipped it only for 0.2 units. I didn't think it was going to cash, but I just thought the fight was closer than the odds indicated, and Richards was the home fighter. I thought he was going to get the decision. He was the matchroom boy, but the draw actually cashed. So yeah, we had a nice event on live betting on the boxing with the just under 4 units profit. We also had Ryzen on New Year's Eve where we tipped Seohee Ham to win for 1 unit, or the stake was 1 unit at odds of plus 137. We managed to get really close fight. I didn't expect her to get the decision, if I'm completely honest. She was the Korean fighter. She was fighting a Japanese fighter in Japan. Very close fight. She lost round 1. Round 2 was a 10-8 round, but Ryzen scored the fight as a whole. And then round 3, she came out, blasted her opponent early, busted her nose, and then inexplicably decided to clinch with her and ended up getting taken down, which was playing into her opponent's strengths. Held down for the last couple of minutes by Hamasaki, so I thought I was going to lose the decision, but it came in, so absolutely delighted that we got the decision there. We could have gone either way. Really happy to be the right side of a judge's decision for once. So we had a really strong end to the year. Basically, members who risk £100 per unit profited £14,500 in 2019. So great return on investment, guys. It's only £195 to join for the year for access to the pre-bets and the live betting service. So you take that away, members are walking away with £14,300 profit for the year. it's a great return on your investment, guys. All bets are posted or tracked rather. We use Bet MMA for our MMA tracking. We use betting.gs for live betting. We also use betting.gs to track boxing bets, or if we maybe do a double on the UFC and boxing, or maybe it's a more obscure event where there's no MMA odds on Bet MMA, we'll use betting.gs to track. So everything's tracked, guys. Complete transparency. There's a link to all three trackers below this video, and you can also find all three trackers on the website ProMMABetting.com. We also post all of our bet slips on our Twitter feed along with the stakes. So bet slips are posted to prove we are betting what we are tipping, and I also show the stake to show that we are not betting minuscule amounts. Every bet we do, our balls are on the line, probably more than anyone that's a member. So I have double anxiety for those reasons, because there's pressure from members needing to cash, and also because I've got a lot of money on the line as well. So full transparency, guys. You're not going to find anyone more transparent than us. Everything is tracked, everything is fully transparent. Twitter page is at Pro MMA Betting. Give us a follow. Check us out for a month. See the bet slips we're posting. See the daily tweets we're putting up. Something I've started doing the last few days. Just putting up some tweets. Just reminding sports investors. I don't like using the word sports gamblers. Sports investors of good protocol. What to do with your money. How to manage your bankroll. How to build a second income. So I've started putting some stuff out every day now, which seems to be going down pretty well on Twitter, so I'm going to keep doing it. So give us a follow there. Please hit the like button on this video, really appreciated. And if you do want to subscribe to the service, packages are all available on the website. As I said, it's £195 for 12 months. You can buy a month, you can buy 6 months. 95% of our members have taken advantage of the 12 months membership. We've got a great Discord channel where the live bets are provided. It is getting chocker and chocker. There's great camaraderie there. Everyone has really great interaction on fight night, and you can see everyone is really itching to get the UFC back and start making some money again. So check out the website for the packages, ProMMABetting.com. Feel free to DM me or tweet me any questions you have. More than happy to answer anything you have. We're going to have, guys, in terms of events that you're going to have to make money on, we're going to have around 40 UFC events. There's going to be 20 odd Bellator events. You're going to get the odd Ryzen event come up. PFL is going to be back. And then we also do the boxing, as I've already mentioned with our results on the live betting for the Thursday before the South Korean UFC card. We do live betting and pre-betting on a hell of a lot of boxing shows. Now, we don't tend to live bet the American boxing shows just because they pretty much all the time clash with the UFC. UFC gets priority for me. But the boxing scene in the UK is very big, and there's normally a show pretty much every week in the UK on a Saturday, so it's normally on before the UFC. So we often find ourselves on a Saturday having a double helping of opportunities to make money in boxing and the UFC. So you'll probably find there's, I don't know, 25 to 30 boxing events that you'll have access to for live betting tips and pre-event tips before an actual UFC event throughout a year. So you're looking at 100 events, guys, where we're going to have an opportunity to pre-bet on, or if there's no pre-bets, we're going to have an opportunity to live bet on. It's a hell of a lot of opportunity to make money, and as I've said before, the live betting especially is free money. So guys, take advantage. £195 for the year. I've got a competitor that charges £200 a month. You are not finding me any cheaper. And guys, the service has really taken off. We're booming with members. I am going to have to cap this service. Not for the pre-bets, but if you want the pre-bets and the live betting combined, I'm going to have to cap the service at some point this year, because I've got so many members now. When I'm tipping something the lines are starting to move for pre-betting when I'm tipping something, but especially for live betting, when I'm tipping something, it's really starting to affect the lines. It's going to start getting to the point where they're going to start closing the lines as soon as I tip something, so it's not going to work out. So I am going to have to cap the service. That means prices are going to increase because it's going to be a premium service. I'm not sure how many members I'm going to cap it to at the moment. It won't be probably until the second part of the year, but if you want to have a chance of getting on board and making some money, I'd do it now before the service is capped. So that's for live betting and the pre-bets. Pre-betting service won't be capped because there's a lot more liquidity in the market. It's not going to drastically affect prices, albeit they are already moving when tips are being sent out for pre-bets. But like I said, not nearly as bad as live betting, where they're starting to suspend the lines, not open the lines, or put out really inflated prices. So that service is going to be capped. So if you want to get on board, guys, I'd do it sooner rather than later, because we are looking after the first 6 months. The service will be capped basically, and I won't be able to take any new members on. Only £195 at the moment. As I said, once I have to cap the service, that price will increase because it's going to be a premium service. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at UFC 246. We'll break the card down from bottom to top. Hopefully I've not forgotten too much, but yeah, as always, we'll just work our way through. One other thing actually, just to say how we done on our predictions for the year. One moment, let me just bring that information up. So for the final event of the year, we went 9-3 on predictions via our YouTube channel. So overall for the year, we finished, so prediction total, right, we got 326. Wrong, we had 172. So that's where we finished for the year. So I'll keep a record of that on the caption below the video, and I'll start the new total for this year from UFC 246. Let's see if we can better that. I never had a clean sweep last year on an event where I went like 12-0 or 13-0, however many fights. There was a few where I went like 11-1. So the aim for me this year is to have a clean sweep. I've not bothered going to look through, but I think I only had maybe 2 events where we predicted more fights wrong than right. So I'm really happy with that. I think that shows, I mean, considering how many UFC shows you have, I think that shows pretty solid capping. And bear in mind as well, guys, these prediction videos are a bit different to a lot of them out there where they're just picking who they think will win. I don't necessarily do that. I go with where I think there's value on the line. So even if I maybe don't think someone is going to win, I will still pick them on this video if I think there's if I think there's value on their betting line. This is a betting podcast. This is all based around value and where we should be staking our money and where we shouldn't. So remember that as well. This isn't just a straight up, oh, I think X is going to win, Y is going to lose. This is based on value. So anyway, let's break down the UFC 246 card. So first fight on the card, we've got Sabina Mazo taking on JJ Aldrich in the women's flyweight division, £125. So if we just quickly look over the stats for this one, that stick out here, Mazo's got a 2-inch height advantage and also a 3-inch reach advantage. JJ has never been at a reach disadvantage in the UFC, I don't think. I remember looking into that before Christmas when I looked at this fight. I'm sure she'd never faced someone with a longer reach in there before, so that's a new for her. Mazo's up at just under 6 significant strikes landed per minute, but she's only had a couple of fights in the UFC. Aldridge is just under 4. She's had far more UFC fights. I think this must be about her 6th fight possibly that's coming up now. Nothing really else to draw from the stats there, but the reach advantage is going to be interesting. I'd like to have seen what the leg reach is here, because Mazo's got really long legs. She is pretty kick heavy. That is the main focus of her striking game, and that's where she's going to win or lose this fight, is whether she can keep the distance with the kicks. JJ's got very solid boxing, a very good counterer. If you come in to close the distance to land, she's got really good countering ability, and her shots are very eye-catching. She's got very fast hands, very snappy. They're definitely going to draw attention with the judges, versus Mazo's arsenal of body, leg and head kicks. Judges just always favour headshots with their hands over over leg kicks unless you're a really, really powerful leg and body kicker like your Barboza types. If you're not, then they just tend to go with the headshots. They just outweigh kicks in judges' minds, rightly or wrongly. So the goal here for Sabina will be to try and fight long with her legs. I think that is the best strategy for her here. She doesn't want to be in punching range with JJ. She's the better boxer. She's got the faster hands. She's going to lose a boxing battle. She's got to try and fight long here. Now Mazo has got a good intercepting knee. She really reminds me of a female version of Cowboy. She's very upright, really good kicks. She used a really good interception knee in her UFC debut against Morose. Now that wasn't the best performance. I don't want to hold it against her too much though. She was only 21 or 22 UFC debut. She got taken down in the first round. After that she managed to stuff all the takedown attempts. You can see she's well educated in the clinch with regards to framing and turning off the fence, etc. She trains at King's MMA, so you know she's well schooled. The second round she was defending takedowns for a fair bit and she got outstruck as well, but then round 3 I don't know whether she just found her confidence, she found her range, a combination of both, but she really kind of started opening up in round 3 with her striking, and as I said, the interception knees are really good. I'm not sure how they're going to work here against JJ Aldrich, who is a southpaw, but if JJ does generally counter, but if JJ does try and step in, then the interception knee might be there for her as long as it works versus a southpaw. But the game plan really for me is for her to try and fight this as long as possible. Her legs are really long. She can use her legs well here. She can probably keep out of range of JJ Aldrich. She looks pretty good in the clinch as well, Mazo. She's got pretty good Thai clinch. She looks a lot better in her second UFC fight, but she did hurt the girl she fought in her second fight really early. I think took the wind out of her sails, and the girl just never really recovered. So also I don't want to read too much into that fight because of that, and also that girl isn't the best fighter. This is definitely a step up for her here, taking on JJ Aldrich. JJ Aldrich, I'm very fond of her. I like her style. She's been a bit of a cash cow for me. I bet her to win a decision over Laura Muller. I bet her against Maycee Barber as well as a heavy underdog, and she had a great first round, but just ended up wilting under the pressure. Barber just got to her in the end. I also bet her against Poliana Viana. I really like her style. Really nice boxing. This is a really tough fight to call, and the lines are basically at a pick'em. I think the lines are spot on. I came away with a slight lean towards Mazo because I thought if she can keep this long, she's young. She seems to have made strides. I mean, you watch her fights pre-UFC. Now she's got a couple of head kick knockouts, and they were both against fighters who were either southpaw or who were in the southpaw stance when they got knocked out. So that's something Aldrich needs to be careful of, is that dangerous head kick, especially being a southpaw. At a pick'em, as I said, it's a pass for me. I just wonder if Mazo can just keep this fight long when JJ does close the distance. If she does, Mazo can take the Thai plum. Aldrich is probably the smaller girl here. She's fought at 115 before, but it's as I said, I think the lines are spot on. Mazo to win by decision. It's currently sitting at plus 140. There's not even any value on that. I don't like this fight, guys, on the lines. I think the lines are pretty accurate. It's definitely a pass for me. It's a hard one to pick. I would probably take either girl if they was a decent plus number, plus 130, plus 140. I had a slight lean towards Mazo. I'm going to pick Mazo, but I'm definitely not confident. I don't think there's any value on the lines at the moment. I would pass on this fight personally, but I'm very interested to see it because I'm hoping Mazo's going to look good here, because I'm hoping she's going to be a bit of a dark horse in the division, because I definitely think she's got some potential. But JJ Aldrich, very solid boxing. Next, men's bantamweight division. We've got Brian Kelleher taking on Ode Osborne. Quick look at the stats. Ode's got an inch in height. He's got big reach advantage, 7 inches. Also fights out of a southpaw stance. Strikes landed per minute. I mean, Osborne's, it's hard really to read. He's had one fight, a contender series, but Kelleher's up at 5. You know, he puts out a high volume, but he also absorbs a lot as well. He's up at 6 absorb per minute. Takedown accuracy for Kelleher, 26%. I see a lot of people liking Ode. A few people I speak to that I respect like Ode as well. I did tape. Not for me, especially not as a favourite. I think there's a lot of unknowns here. I'm very wary of betting debutants, especially if there's certain unknowns, and he's got a few of them. Now he's got 7-inch reach advantage. I'm not sold on his ability to maintain that reach advantage. I could be proven wrong, but just from the tape I watched his last 3 fights. I don't think it doesn't look like he's got a great ability to maintain distance. I think Kelleher's going to be able to get inside that 7-inch reach here. So that's one thing that put me off. I was hoping to see him maintaining the distance better than he did. Also, if you look at his record, especially recently, a lot of round 1 finishes. We've not seen him past round 1 since September 2016. So you're getting on for nearly 3.5 years since he's been out of round 1. 2 of his fights have gone to a decision. He won 1 via a split decision, and he lost another decision. So it's just a concern for me. How's his gas tank going to hold up? Cardio is so important once you get to the UFC. And Brian Kelleher's going to come out and push a high pace. So, you know, how is this guy's cardio? It's an unknown at the end of the day. So that puts me off. Kelleher's a tough guy to finish. I mean, he can be subbed, but in terms of knocking him out, it's a pretty tall ask. No one's really managed it, I don't think, except for John Lineker. So there's that question mark as well. And I know Kelleher's not really a takedown artist, but I watched his last 3 fights, as I said. His takedown defence didn't look great. I mean, you look at who Brian's fought though in the UFC, and they're tough guys to take down. Henan Barral, arguably the best takedown defence I've ever seen in the UFC. John Lineker, not easy to take down. He's improved his takedown defence. Montel Jackson, just solid wrestling. Guy's a giant, not easy to take down at all either. So yeah, I don't want to kind of say, oh, he's got garbage takedowns. Against someone like Ode, who's been taken down by much lesser competition in his last 3 fights, you know, there's possibilities there. But even on the feet, as I said, I didn't like how he maintained his distance from what I saw. Now, I am going off limited tape. The 3 fights I watched, they're all over in round 1. But for me, as a favourite against a grizzled vet like Brian Kelleher, not for me. You know, this is going to be Kelleher. I think it's his 7th fight in the UFC. He's 3-3. He's lost to Marlon Vera, John Lineker, Montel Jackson. That's not bad competition. He's beaten Yuri Alcantara, Damian Stasiak, and Henan Barral. So, yeah, I can't get behind Ode here. I think people are kind of writing Kelleher off. You know, he is coming off that bad knockout loss to John Lineker. Then he got quickly finished by Montel Jackson. He is 33 years of age now. So there are some question marks there. But he's only been finished by a knockout once. That was Lineker. Submissions kind of been his downfall. Shown good submissions off of his back, but the UFC submissions off your back, generally it's a no-go area. It doesn't work once you get to the UFC. So it's a hard fight to be confident in my opinion. I think there's a lot of unknowns with Ode. Where is Kelleher at as well? But I'm definitely not betting Ode at the -130 line. I mean, I'd like probably a little bit more of a plus number on Kelleher to pull the trigger, but based on the line value, I have to pick Brian Kelleher here at plus number. He's the guy with 6 UFC fights, veteran of the game, taking on the debuting fighter with question marks. So I'm going to pick Brian Kelleher to pick up this W. Next up, we've got the men's flyweight division, and this fight is going to be really, really good. I'm really looking forward to this. We've got Tim Elliott taking on Askar Askarov. from a betting perspective, guys, I just think this fight is a complete pass. It's going to be back and forth, up and down, scramble heavy. I think it's the type that's going to end up with a split decision. I'd be surprised if it's not a very competitive fight. Asker's a slight favourite, -120. I'm not seeing any value either side. Tim Elliott had his comeback fight against Davison Figueiredo after having a couple of years out, basically. He got choked out 3 minutes into round 1 after hitting a takedown. Looked alright up until the takedown and the subsequent submission loss. But Tim's I love watching Tim. He's a live wire in there, very scramble heavy. He's got very solid takedowns. He's not got good top control though. He's very much submission over position. And that's a shame for him here, because Askarov is not good off his back. He gets stuck on his back. I noticed it. I remember when I taped him before his UFC debut, I noticed he wasn't good off his back. And we saw it in round 3 against Brandon Moreno, where he got stuck on his back. I remember live betting Brandon Moreno in that fight. I got a really good line as well. I got dog odds, I think, after round 1. And I don't agree that was a draw. I thought Moreno won that fight. I just don't think that fight was a draw. But yeah, Askarov, kind of question mark over his stand-up, but Tim Elliott's not the greatest stand-up guy in the world. He's got good wrestling, good takedowns. He's good on top, but not good off his back. It's a very tough fight to call, and I think it's a bit of a dart with the current odds, guys. I don't think there's any value. Just sit back and enjoy this one. I'm 99% sure it's going to be a very enjoyable fight. I don't know what way it's going to swing. It's hard for me to even make a prediction because no one's even a decent dog. It's just like what I probably like best on this fight is probably fight goes to a decision -145. Now I remember against Moreno that was a really good line as well, fight to go to a decision, because Askarov's finished everyone basically. But as I say, as soon as you get into the UFC, the level goes up and you find these guys that were finishing fights on the regional scene, they're suddenly going to a decision. Look what happens. Askarov's first fight in the UFC goes to a decision. Tim Elliott is not the easiest guy to finish. He's only been KO'd once. Askarov's not got great striking, so I don't see that. But they both are opportunistic with their submissions, so you would have to sweat some submission attempts, I'm pretty sure, throughout the fight. But yeah, I mean, that's probably my favourite line on the fight. -145, fight goes to a decision for 2 flyweights, but it's going to be scramble heavy, and there are going to be some submission attempts, so you are going to have to tighten your bum cheeks at points. But yeah, I mean, if I had to put a bet on the fight, that's what I would bet. But I don't know why I'm not as confident of this going to a decision as I was when he fought Moreno, and I think that might have been, I can't remember what the price was now. Was it a plus number? I still think it's a decent line though, considering it's 2 flyweights. So I'm going to force myself to make a prediction here. I'm going to pick Tim Elliott, but I've got no confidence in that whatsoever. Like I said, I don't think there's any value on the lines, guys. On the money lines, I think avoid it. Fight goes to a decision, possibly, but to be honest, fight goes to a decision, I think I'd want -120 maybe. Tough fight, but really should be a really enjoyable fight, so I'm looking forward to it. Next up, men's light heavyweight division. We've got Justin Ledet taking on Aleksei Oleinik. So we haven't seen Ledet for a little while. It's been almost a year since we last saw him, when he took that quick loss to Johnny Walker. But prior to that, he came with a bit of a 3-round beatdown against Alexander Rakic. So he's not had a great introduction to light heavyweight, but you know, he's fought 2 of the best or most potential at light heavyweight. They weren't two easy fights he had when he moved down. He started off at heavyweight and went 3-0. Chase Sherman, Mark Godbeer, and Annie Anwu he beat. None of them are in the UFC now, so it was lower level guys, and the Annie Anwu fight was very close. I had a bet on Ledet in that fight, and I was nervous when that went to a decision. He just didn't really do enough. He's got a really nice jab, Ledet, but he can just fall in love with it a little bit too much. And if you just land in a jab, unless you're absolutely piecing someone up, you can let a decision slide by. But he was just outclassed by Rakic and Walker, just the better fighters with a higher potential. He's taken on a guy here, Aleksei Oleinik, who's 5-0, so he's pretty raw. He's only 24 years of age. He trains with Stipe Miocic. We saw him on the Contender Series. He won the first round against Fabio Cerrone. I wasn't massively impressed. Threw a lot of body kicks, quite a heavy kick attack it was. He took a couple of shots. They said on commentary in the second round when he got caught that he was stunned. I'm not sure if he was stunned, but he definitely took a good shot. And that's when he produced the flying knee and the follow-up punches. So it's, the jury's still out on Oleinik. And you look at his career, and he's only, besides that fight, he's only been into the second round once, all first round finishes. Yeah, this is a big step up for him against Justin Ledet. I don't know what Justin Ledet's been up to for the last year. I couldn't see anything on his social media. He's also given up some reach here, Oleinik. I think Ledet's got about a 6-inch reach advantage, so Ledet's going to try and get behind his jab here. This might be a tough fight for Oleinik. Ledet is the more experienced guy. He's been in the UFC. He's had 5 fights, and the line's coming down now. The line was higher, but I still think based on the betting line, you can't bet Aleksei Oleinik here. I know there's question marks around Ledet, especially he's coming off 2 bad losses, but he fought very high level competition, and this seems like a fight where, unless Oleinik shows something that he didn't show on the Contender Series, I think Ledet could jab his way to a victory here. So the plus 105, I think that's where the value lies. Ledet by decision, it's also something I just want to have a look at. That could be interesting. Plus 265, I don't think that's bad either. So for me, angles I'd be looking at here is definitely the plus money. I can't be betting Oleinik as a favourite, and also Ledet to win a decision. I think plus 265 is too high. I think that should be lower. I'm just looking at Ledet's finishing ability. He did choke, didn't he? Mark Gobbert took him down and choked him out. Chase Sherman went to a decision, but Sherman did eat a hell of a lot of punishment in that fight. And the Azuna fight, it's just nothing really happened. So, yeah, you are possibly relying on Aleksei having a decent chin, but he ate a couple of shots on the Contender Series, seemed to eat them fine. Trains with Stipe Miocic. Maybe that isn't good for his chin. Maybe he's getting knocked out every other month. But yeah, I think there's some value on the decision there. Just with regards to how the type of fighter Ledet is, he's not really a killer. Plus 265 seems a bit high for me. But we're getting that price because they've got him as the underdog, which I don't agree with in this spot. So I'm going to go with Ledet to win a decision here. Men's lightweight division next, or featherweight division rather. We got Chase Skelly taking on Grant Dawson. Really looking forward to this one. It's going to be a very scramble heavy fight, and I think Dawson is basically a younger version of Skelly. I think they're both very similar fighters, similar heights, same reach. The big difference here for Dawson is he's a lot younger. We're talking like 11 years younger, and fighting's a young man's game. I've really liked what I've seen from Dawson. Now, don't get me wrong, they've got to be careful with how they match him, because there's definitely fights where he could take a beat down. His stand-up isn't very good. It's definitely something that I'm sure he's working on. He trains with James Krause. I'm sure he's working on tidying it up, but the stand-up's kind of all over the place. But the guy will pressure you. He'll be relentless with his takedowns. Something he needs to work on as well is his top control. He can give you too much space, lets fighters get back to their feet. We saw that against Julian Erosa. I'm trying to think back to the Diaz fight. I did watch it, but it was before Christmas. I can't remember. I think he was he giving Diaz space? I can't remember. I know he dominated the guy, but I can't remember. I think he kept taking him down and Diaz was getting back up. But obviously the second round against Trezano, when he got him down, just mounted him and finished him. So that's something he does need to work on. It's just his top control, because he uses a lot of energy for the takedowns. you don't want to be working hard for takedowns and then kind of giving up the position as soon as you get it. You need to work on that top control. If you want the fighter down, you've got to work on keeping them there. So that's one facet of his game that he needs to work on. But he's only 25 years of age. He should be improving. And I thought that Cerrone win was a good, solid win for him. And the way he finished him as well, I thought that was pretty impressive. He pretty much dominated Rosa. Had a couple of moments where he looked in maybe a little bit of trouble, but on the whole, pretty much domination there against a veteran in Julian Erosa. So I'm pretty looking forward to seeing how Dawson develops. He's definitely an exciting fighter, lots of pressure, heavy in your face, and so he's similar to Chase Skelly, but problem with Skelly is it's a 9-year age gap, not 11. The problem with Skelly is he's always tended to slow down. It's just something, I think it's physiological. I don't think it's something he can fix with his conditioning. He's coming off that win over Jordan Griffin, which I can't remember exactly what happened there in round 3, but Jordan Griffin kind of gifted the fight to Skelly, because I'm pretty sure it was 1-1 going into round 3. Did Griffin drop for I think Griffin stuffed a takedown, dropped for a guillotine, something stupid, put himself on his back. But yeah, I just think Dawson's he's a better grappler than someone like Griffin. The unknown with Dawson though is we haven't seen his takedown defence and we haven't seen him on his back. So there are unknowns there, but Skelly's takedown defence is abysmal. Anyone that tries pretty much takes him down. On the feet, that Skelly is not a good striker, but I don't want to underappreciate his power. He's got quite a powerful right hand. Dawson's going to have to be careful with that because he is hittable. Especially as the thing with Dawson is his cardio is good in the sense that he fights through fatigue well, better than someone like Skelly, but he still does slow down. So in the stand-up, he needs to be careful he doesn't start walking into Skelly's right hand, because he can crack Skelly. And I mean, he's always shown to have a pretty solid chin. It's only Jason Knight, bizarrely, that's been able to put him away with strikes. So he can take it on the feet, Skelly, but his takedown defence is a bit of a liability, and that's the worry for him here, in my opinion. Dawson's just going to come out, pressure him, keep a high pace. He's going to look to take him down, and be interesting to see if he can keep him down. But Skelly having to keep working back to his feet, that's going to wear him out as well. So I just favour the younger, fresher guy here. Skelly's, he had that long layoff, he had some injuries, came back against Bobby Moffett, lost controversially to that choke that the ref thought he was out, but he wasn't. He had a decent first round against Moffett, but then Moffett seemed to be taking over. He got the takedown. Skelly reversed off the fence, and that's where he fell into the choke. And then the Griffin fight, as I said, Griffin kind of threw that away. But this is going to be kind of like the Askarov Elliott fight, where I think it's going to be really scramble heavy at flyweight. I think this is a couple of divisions up, but I think it's going to be a similar kind of fight. But I just think the freshness of Dawson is going to come through here. So I fancy Dawson to probably win this by a decision. The line there has changed a fair bit. I think a lot of money's been coming in. Dawson's like minus 250 now. He was sitting in he was like the minus 150, minus 160 range for quite a while. I don't think the line's playable now. I think if you got him in the minus 150, minus 160, minus 170 kind of area, I think that's a solid bet. I wouldn't play it now, just because, as I said, there are unknowns with Dawson. Like I said, we've not seen his takedown defence, we've not seen him on his back. How is he in those two areas? We don't know, and we might find out against someone like Skelly. And I do think this is going to be a competitive fight, but I just think the younger man's going to come through here. So I'm going to go with Dawson to win a decision. Next, we've got the men's lightweight division. Now, this is a fight that I did cap way before Christmas, so I'm not sure how my memory is going to be. I know Nasrat pretty well. To be honest, I know I'm pretty familiar with both of them, so hopefully I'm not going to be too affected here. But we've got Dober taking on Nasrat, Haqparast. So both guys have had a fair number of UFC fights. So let's quickly look at the stats. Nasrat's a couple of inches taller. He's got a couple of inches reach. Dober fights out of southpaw stance. So does Nasrat. Strikes landed per minute. Naz is up at over 5. Drew's at about 4.5. Strikes absorbed. Drew's up at just over 4. Naz is just over 3. Drew averages just under 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Naz, he doesn't go for takedowns. Dober takedown defense 62%. That's irrelevant here, I'm sure. Nasrat's is 78%. So I think this is going to be a really entertaining fight. I'm very high on Nasrat. I'm a big fan of him. I like his style. I like his striking. I like the team he's got. He's with Faraz at TriStar. He also mixes in some training over at Kings with Rafael Cordero. He's only 24 years of age. He's improving fight to fight. He took the short notice fight with Marcin Held. Since then, I mean, the Aleksei fight was nothing short of spectacular. Now, before I did tape on this fight, I was thinking that Nasrat was going to be a max bet for me, but that did change after tape. Reason being, the Guti fight did raise some question marks for me. Now, Nasrat is someone that likes moving forward. If he is pushed back in the Guti fight, he definitely didn't look as effective. You could argue he dropped round 2 in that fight as well. So he needs, he's a front foot fighter. Fighting on the back foot isn't something that comes natural to him. He likes moving forward. It's being able to fight front foot and back foot. Not many fighters can do it, and it's really something hard to learn, because if you're someone that's on the front foot fighting and you generally can push your guys back, it's just where your game kind of gets developed, and you just don't develop that back foot game because you're just never there. So it was interesting that Guti took some big shots in round 1, managed to survive, and then in round 2 he started to push Nasrat back and have more success. Now against Silva, I thought Nasrat was a bit more patient. He came out a bit more measured. This is something that comes with experience and with age. So as I said, I think his game is developing fight by fight. He's still only young, but I definitely think he's got a bright future. He seems to have a very solid chin. Seen him hit a few shots, no problem. But it's just, when he's pushed back, how is he going to fare? That's the question here. And you've got someone like Drew Dober, Drew Dober likes to move forward. He doesn't like moving back. So can he push Nasrat back is the question here. I think Dober is in career best form. I think this is the best Drew Dober that we've seen in the UFC. But I also think Drew Dober's been very fortunate in his matchmaking since he's been in the UFC. I mean, he's been in UFC 6 years now, and he's never really fought anyone that high level. Probably Dariush is the highest. Well, he is the highest level guy he's fought. Besides that, he's been pretty fortunate with his matchmaking. I mean, I was on Dober last fight against Marco Hayes. I thought his power was going to be too much for Hayes. His chin's just completely shot, and it was. And he was competitive against Dariush. He had a really solid first round. Was out striking him. Dariush couldn't get the takedown. Ended up getting taken down in round 2 though, and ultimately submitted. But I mean, you kind of look at who he's been matched. Look at his last 4 wins. Joshua Berkman shot to pieces. Frank Camacho. That was, I mean, he fought Camacho up at welterweight, to be fair. But he's fortunate maybe to get that decision. I thought Camacho could have stolen that. John Tuck, he's been cut now, and he out-wrestled John Tuck basically. Went for takedowns in that fight. And then Hayes, he's got no chin. His last win before that was Jason Gonzalez. He beat Scott Holtzman, which is a solid win, but Holtzman was pretty green then. I think he's a lot better now. I think that if they fought again now, I think that fight would be a lot closer. So yeah, he has been fortunate in his matchmaking, and you kind of look at his last 2 losses. When he has taken that step up, he's lost Olivier Mercier and Dariush. Now, we haven't seen Nasrat face another southpaw, so that is an unknown. But one thing that I did note was in the Mercier fight, Dober really struggled with Mercier's speed, and Nasrat is going to be I'd say the fastest fighter that Dober's faced, and he was really struggling with the speed against Mercier. So the speed of shot here is going to be interesting. and I think that is going to be a problem for Dober. I think that's probably going to keep Nasrat on the front foot, is the speed of the punch. I think he's going to be the one that's mainly pushing forward here. I do expect a competitive fight. I don't think Nasrat's going to run away with this. I do have that Guti fight in the back of my mind, but then I also have the Aleksei performance, and then the performance last time out in my mind as well, and he looks spectacular in both. So I definitely think he's got the highest ceiling. I think Drew Dober's been very fortunate. You know, a lot of fighters get matched up way worse than him, and someone like Dober, if he hadn't been so fortunate with his matchmaking, could have been cut after 3 or 4 fights. But he wasn't. He's been pretty lucky with how he's been matched. I do think he's improved. He's a dangerous striker. I like his style. He's normally an entertaining fight, so I think this would be an entertaining fight. But I've got to go with the guy who I think's got the highest ceiling here. The guy that's improving fight to fight. A guy that's very hungry, and a guy that I think has got, you know, potential title contender written all over him. Whereas Drew Dober, he's gonna, you know, he's at this level. You look at his opposition, that's the kind of level he's at. He's just above the majority of the guys he's faced. He's not going to be a contender. So I will go with Nasrat here to win, probably by decision. I'm going to go for. The line, though, is unplayable now. He's like a big favourite now, -325. He's dropped to -300. He was sitting in around the -200 range for a while, -225. I think that kind of area was playable, but now, no, I don't think it's playable now. But I do expect a win here for Nasrat. Next, we've got another fight in the men's featherweight division. We've got Andre Fili taking on Sodiq Yusuff. I was a bit hard on this card, to be honest. I mean, it's not full of big names considering it's a Conor McGregor card, but there's some really good fights on here. This is another one. So Andre Fili, Sodiq Yusuff. Fili's got a 3-inch reach advantage over Sodiq, 2 inches of height. Sodiq, he's only had he's had 3 UFC fights, so I mean, the averages start to count, I say, 3 fights onwards. So Sodiq's up at over 6 significant strikes per minute. Andre Fili's up at just over 4. Both absorb a fair number though. Fili's at almost 4. Sodiq's up at almost 4.5. Fili averages 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Quite a high takedown accuracy, 46%. Sodiq, it doesn't go for takedowns, and we've not seen his takedown defence tested in the UFC. So this is a really good fight. Very hard one for me to call. Fili has definitely improved as a fighter. He's 29 years of age now, seems to be coming into his own. He's looked solid his last couple of fights. Miles Jury, he just pretty much jabbed Miles Jury's face off for 3 rounds. It would have been a 30-27, but he got dropped at the last minute of round 2 with a spinning back fist. Kind of gave the fight to Jury, but he just kept the jab in Jury's face basically for the whole of the fight. And then Shaman Morales, really impressive victory there. Wobbled him with a head kick. Morales did a switch kick to the body. Fili came straight back with a head kick that wobbled Morales. Fili went in for the kill. Morales stepped in. Fili landed a solid right hand, put him down. Follow-up punches out cold. So he's definitely improving as a fighter. Before that, he had lost a split to Michael Johnson. Really close fight. Close on the feet. I did edge it to Michael on the feet, but you know, as flaky as Michael is, he is a very solid striker. So you know, even on the feet, he ran Michael Johnson close. What Fili does have is he does have a really good reactive double leg, pretty explosive with it, and as I mentioned, 46% takedown accuracy. The thing that lets Fili down is his top control's not great, so he doesn't really get to take advantage of it. He did against Michael Johnson in round, I can't remember if it was round 1 or round 2, where he managed to get his back, but then he got a takedown again in round 3, but Johnson got straight back up, and that's kind of the general thing that happens when Fili gets takedowns, is they do get back to their feet. So He does have that takedown up his sleeve though, and that is an unknown with Sodiq, is what is his takedown defence like, and if he does get taken down, what's he like off of his back? Can he get back to his feet straight away? So that's an unknown there that you have to factor in, because Fili would be silly not to test that in this fight. Sodiq, very good boxer. He's got serious power. We saw that in the Benitez fight. Benitez from the southpaw stance landed a left hand. Sodiq kind of pulled back. It only landed marginally, and he's come back with a right hand counter right on the chin, put Benitez away. Shaman Morales fight was very close. I remember having that 1-1, and I had Morales ahead in round 3 up until Sodiq dropped him. Couldn't finish him, but had him badly hurt. And then UFC debut, Suman Mokhtarian, he shouldn't be in the UFC, just blew him away very quick. And he obviously had that great fight on the Contender Series against Mike Davis, who we've seen since show that he's got really, really good boxing, but kind of messed Mike Davis up with the calf kick. So Andre Fili needs to be wary of that calf kick here as well. So it's a hard fight. It's a tough fight because there are unknowns with Sodiq. Defensively, well, firstly, I've got some worries about his chin. If you watch his loss in Titan against Louis Gomez, he gets dropped by Louis Gomez in that fight pretty badly. He's been dropped by Gabriel Benitez in his last fight. I mean, it wasn't a bad knockdown. It was kind of a flash knockdown, and he seemed to recover pretty quickly, but there's just that slight question mark around his chin. And he was in a close fight with Shaman Morales. Make no mistake, if he didn't get that knockdown, there was probably a split decision incoming there. And as I said, up until that point, I had Shaman slightly ahead. So you've got to be careful not to run away with the prospect tag here with Sodiq. There are still question marks, and as I said, takedown defence, bottom game, and unknown, and that's something that Fili could definitely test. So with the line the way it is, Sodiq is shortening. He is down to -125 now. He was up at, it's saying to me on the mean odds, he was up at basically -200, which is definitely too wide. We're starting to get to pick'em territory now, which, to be honest, I feel is probably pretty accurate. I imagine Fili's going to try and get his jab working here. He's going to try and use that reach, but Fili is hittable. He can definitely be caught here by Sodiq, and we have seen Fili knocked out before. In the UFC, we saw Rodriguez put him away. Max Holloway, I'm sure, had him hurt. This is going back a long time, so he can be hurt. He is hittable on the feet, and Sodiq does crack. So it's a tough fight to call this one. I'm going to lean with Sodiq, but I think he's a prospect. He's got lots of potential, but I'm not really enticed to play him here. I mean, he could come out and blow Fili away. It wouldn't shock me, but the Shaman Morales fight was very close. Gabriel Benitez did wobble him. Takedown defence unknown. Bottom game unknown, which could be tested here. Just kind of errs me on the side of caution and keeping me away. But I'm going to pick Sodiq here to win. I think he might catch Fili and put him away. As I said, he is hittable, but I think more likely it probably goes to a decision. So I'll probably lean with Sodiq to win a decision here, but it's not a fight that I really want to play. He's given up the 3 inches of reach as well. Let me just have a quick look at the opposition that he's faced in the UFC, and has he been at a reach disadvantage before? He's at 71 inches. The Suman fight's no point in even looking into that. Shaman had a 1 inch reach advantage, and when he faced Gabriel Benitez, had the same reach. So he's been at a 1 inch reach disadvantage before. He hasn't had a 3 inch reach disadvantage, not in the UFC at least anyway. So that's something he's got to overcome as well. So a few question marks for him here, and Fili's a veteran. He's been in the UFC a long time, seen it all in there, and he is in career best form. There's no doubt about it. This is the best version of Andre Fili we've seen. So that just has me avoiding this fight. But I'm going to predict that Yusuff probably gets it done, probably by a decision. But I don't fault anyone who jumped on Andre Fili, especially when he was up in that plus 150 bracket. Next, women's flyweight fight. We've got Roxanne Modafferi taking on Maycee Barber. The betting line, this is pretty outrageous. Maycee Barber is up at minus 1,000. I definitely didn't see that coming. I mean, I knew she was going to be a good favourite, but I mean, that just seems a little bit OTT. No chance I am touching that line. I can't fault anyone that's taken a stab on Roxanne here. Do I think she's going to win? No. Do I think that line is too wide? Most definitely. Look, Roxanne, she's getting on. She's 37 now. She's very wooden, but she finds a way to win fights. She's a very experienced fighter. She's had, we're talking 40 professional fights now. Look, I think Maycee Barber is going to be too powerful for her. I think she's probably going to stop her. Roxanne, she's only been stopped a couple of times, and I think both of them were from slams basically. But Maycee Barber can crack for a woman. She's very aggressive. She's still very young, only 21 years of age. But if Roxanne can get her on her back, things could get very interesting. I don't know if she can. Maycee's a pretty stout 125er. Roxanne isn't physically strong. She's not going to be as physically strong here. I mean, Roxanne did pull that win off over against Shevchenko, but I think Maycee Barber's just going to be physically overpowering here, and I think she's probably going to stop her. But even that line is like minus 165 for Maycee to win by KO. I don't even know if I want to get behind that. I think you just have to, unless you want to take a stab on Roxanne, I think it's just a pass fight, guys. I think Maycee is going to win this fight, and probably pretty convincingly. But yeah, minus 1,000. I mean, we're getting on to, Valentina Shevchenko odds or peak Ronda Rousey now in women's MMA, and I don't think Maycee Barber's done anything to deserve that kind of fanfare from the books just yet. So I'll go with Maycee Barber inside the distance. If I had to make a play, that's probably what I'd take. I'd take a KO line probably at minus 165. What is inside the distance? Let's see what the difference is, because sometimes it's just not worth risking it and just take inside the distance instead. Maycee Barber inside the distance minus 215 versus KO 165. So you're talking a half a point difference. Maybe if you want to bet it, maybe do 0.25 Maycee inside the distance, 0.25 Maycee by KO, just in case she snags the submission. You don't lose too much money, but I think it's probably KO. But even, like I said, I think even that line's maybe a little bit steep. Roxanne is durable. She knows how to survive in there, but I don't know. I mean, I've not looked right through Roxanne's record, but I don't know if she's faced someone with kind of the ferocity and finishing ability that Maycee has. Just having a quick scan through just at her losses, and no, she probably hasn't, to be fair. So I do expect her to get finished here. So yeah, I'll go with Maycee Barber to win inside the distance and probably by KO. But don't bet the money line. Don't be putting her in parlays, guys. Please don't do it. Right, onto the main card now. So first fight on the main card, we've got Anthony Pettis taking on Diego Ferreira. Quick look over the stats. Ferreira's got a couple of inch reach advantage. He averages over 5 significant strikes per minute. Pettis is basically at 3. Absorbed, Pettis 3.5. Diego just over 3. Takedowns, neither of these guys really go for takedowns. They're both they're both just over half a takedown every 15 minutes. So kind of takedown defense kind of irrelevant. It's going to be a a fight on the feet most likely, although Diego wouldn't shock me if he did try and mix in some takedowns here. He's got a very, very solid grappling game, but you obviously need to be wary of Pettis. He's dangerous off of his back, but I expect this fight to play out on the feet. Anthony Pettis, I think, is shot one. I've been saying it for a while now. I know he pulled out that win over Wonder Boy, but he was getting dominated in that fight. Let's be real. It was, I don't like to call a punch a fluke because it was intentionally thrown, but if they fight 10 times, I think Wonder Boy's winning 9 of them times. The Nate Diaz fight wasn't a good look. Nate didn't look great in that fight. He was coming off a 3-year layoff. Looked at one point early in round 2 that Pettis was taking over, but then he just seemed to fold like a pack of cards. Look, Pettis has had tough fights. He's like these last 3: Ferguson, Wonder Boy, Nate Diaz. Before that, Chiesa, Dustin Poirier. His last 5 fights have not been easy fights at all, but the writing's been on the wall for me for Pettis even before that. He's just not the fighter he was. He struggles against pressure fighters. 2 of his last 3 losses are to, his last 2 losses in fact, are to pressure fighters. His last 3 really, if you include Dustin Poirier, or even 4 if you include Max Holloway. Just struggles with pressure guys, and Diego Ferreira is another one. Just constant pressure. He's going to be in your face. He's probably not as refined a striker as Diaz, Ferguson, Poirier and Holloway, but this guy's a beast, man. He had a long layoff. He's come back and he's just been running through everyone. Jared Gordon, Carl Nelson, Rustam Khabilov, Tysonov. He's looked really, really good. Just constant pressure, constant in your face, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think he's just going to break Anthony Pettis down. Pettis, he can crack. Diego's got to be careful with that right hand of Pettis. It is a dangerous weapon for him still. He put Thompson away with it. He did drop Tony Ferguson with it. He dropped stroke stunned Michael Chiesa with it. So Ferreira's got to be careful with that right hand. Ferreira's not the fastest guy in the world. It's that constant pressure that just breaks people and slows them down. But he does need to be wary of that right hand from Pettis. It's a solid weapon for him. But outside of him kind of catching Ferreira with that right hand and stunning in him, being able to follow up and finish or one punch him, which we just haven't seen Pettis do, except for the Wonder Boy fight, of course. It just seems like a difficult stylistic fight for him. He's going to be trying to move Pettis, but I just think he's going to end up slowing down. He's the faster guy, but he just slows down in fights. So I have to go with Ferreira here. I'm maybe not as confident as everyone. I've seen a lot of people on Ferreira, a lot of people throwing out max bets and so forth. I'm maybe not max bet confident, especially now the line's crept up. It's minus 250 most places now. I think if you was betting Ferreira, you probably wanted minus 200 or slightly better. Not sure there's any value now, but you'll have to go with Ferreira, even though he's the older guy. He's just a fresher guy. Puts out that strong, hard pace, as I said, that Pettis just struggles with. It's his weakness. And I just think Ferreira is just going to, I think it goes to a decision, but I just think that Ferreira is going to outwork him and take the decision. The first round might be competitive, but I just think from thereafter it's downhill for Pettis, unless he can get Ferreira out there in round 1. And just looking at actually fight goes to a decision, I don't think that's a bad line. It's sitting at minus 145. Pettis is tough. I don't think Ferreira is going to put him away. And it seems unlikely that Pettis stops Ferreira, so I don't think that's a bad line. Fight to go to a decision, but it's probably going to be a bit of a sweaty one because you're going to have some hard shots landing, and if Pettis does slow, as I suspect, you're going to find Ferreira kind of piling the pressure on, but he's not a massive puncher, Ferreira, so I don't think that's bad. I think that's a decent line. Fight to go to a decision, minus 145. But to win the fight, I have to go with Ferreira here. I think Pettis is on a decline. and I think Ferreira's kind of coming into his own, even though he's 35 and he's training out of that excellent camp as well over in Texas. I can't remember, Fortis. So he's got a real solid camp behind him as well, doing really good things in the game. So yeah, Ferreira for me here. Women's strawweight action next. Really looking forward to this one. Cláudia Gadelha taking on Aleksei Grasso. It's a quick look at the stats. Grasso's got an inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. Grasso over 5 significant strikes per minute. Gadelha's up at just over 3 absorbed. Gadelha's up at almost 4.5. Grasso just over 3.5. Takedown average. Cláudia averages almost 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. 47% takedown accuracy. Grasso, she's not going to be going for takedowns here. Takedown defense for her is at 63%. So really interesting fight here. Cláudia Gadelha has changed things up again. She's changed her training up a hell of a lot. She left Nova and Yao. She went to train with, I can't remember the name of the camp, but it's near Jackson's, somewhere over in New Mexico. She was there for a little while. Then she went over to the UFC PI, and this is going to be her second fight, fighting out of Mark Henry's camp over in New Jersey. So she's obviously trying to fix something. She's seen a hole in her game that needs fixing, and all credit to her for trying to make those changes, especially at this stage of her career. I don't think she's going to sniff the belt again. So, all credit to her for still being hungry enough to try and implement changes in her game. Look, I'm a big Cláudia Gadelha fan. I've bet her a lot in the past, but there's no ignoring the fact that something's gone amiss. Something has changed in her game. She is 100%, in my opinion, a USADA victim. She used to train out of Nova and Yao. We saw that camp fall apart post USADA. Some of their fighters fell off a cliff. Now she's not fallen off a cliff, but there's definitely been a drop off post USADA with Cláudia. I don't care what anyone says. She was definitely on it. You can hear it in her voice as she talks. And there's been just a marked decline in her performance since then, basically. If we go back, she started to look a bit ropey since the large fight about 2.5 years ago now. She started well, first couple of minutes, landed some solid strikes, and then she just took a beat down for the rest of the fight. Really got beat down in that fight. Carla Esparza fight next. I had a big bet on Gadelha in that fight. There was real late money coming in on Carla. The line, I'd never seen a line move so quickly. Besides the Korean guy, it turned out that she had some kind of knee injury going into the fight. It had leaked, and while the money was coming in on Carla, look, I try not to factor in injuries because everyone's injured. You don't know how much it's affecting them. She looked fine to me in the fight. So the fight, I think Carla won that fight. I think Cláudia won that fight against Carla. It was a split decision. I thought she won round 1. She did get wobbled really badly, but I didn't think it was really enough to give Carla the round. I thought that was a round for Cláudia. So I did score the fight for her, but she slowed down like she always does. By round 3, she was kind of fighting on empty. She did manage to get Carla down, but Carla got up and took her down. Striking became less effective. Then against Nina Ansaroff, she lost the decision. She managed to get Nina down in round 1. After that, just struggled to get the takedowns. She did get another takedown in round 2, but she'd been outstruck for like about 3.5 minutes. It just wasn't enough to give her the win. Her cardio, to be fair, has looked okay in her last 2 fights, but they were fairly slow-paced fights. But she just got picked apart on the feet by Nina Ansaroff. And then her first fight out of Mark Henry's camp against Randa Marcos, Randa just gave her the perfect fight, slow-paced fight. She basically stayed on the back foot through little volume. Very unentertaining affair. Cláudia took home a fairly comfortable decision, just doing enough on the feet. Randa didn't try and take her down or anything. But someone like Grasso is going to bring a pace here. You're going to see Cláudia's conditioning tested, which is where her weakness lies. I always remember in the Courtney Casey fight as well, this is when she'd moved over to the team in New Mexico. I remember there's a point, I think it might be in round 2, I haven't rewatched it for this fight, but I remember there's a point in round 2 where she seems to take she suddenly slows down, you see her taking a deep breath, but she managed to kind of win the fight still comfortably because she just wasn't really being pushed by Courtney. But someone brings a high paced fight like Andrade did, like Esparza did, the pace drops off. I think it's a physiological problem. I don't think it can be fixed. I just think there's something there that just stops her being able to fight at a high pace, and that's where Grasso needs to try and exploit her, because this girl does fight at a high pace. As I said, she averages over 5 significant strikes per minute. That's really high. She needs to try and drag Cláudia into a dogfight here. Now what we saw with Grasso is she was really disappointed in her debut against Felice Herrig, just didn't pull the trigger until round 3. She lost to Randa Marcos, really close fight, could have gone either way. And basically from the Marcos fight through to the Carolina fight, we basically didn't see her for 2 years. Now I know she had the fight with Suarez in between, but Suarez just came out, took her down and submitted her. We didn't get to see any of Grasso's game. So for all intents and purposes, we didn't see her for a couple of years. Then she came out against Carolina. Now don't get me wrong, good stylistic fight for her. There's no takedown threat there. And there's also some question marks now about where Carolina's at. But I mean, she absolutely dominated Carolina for 3 rounds, just took her apart on the feet. Looked really good. Then she came back a few months later against Carla Esparza. So this is where we got to see her full game again, because obviously you've got the takedown threat with Carla Esparza. And I mean, she put it on Carla. Carla did get takedowns. So I watched this fight before Christmas and my memory's gone hazy on how this fight played out in terms of the takedowns now. But I did see enough from Carla Esparza in that fight, from Alexa Grasso in that fight, to think that she has been working on a takedown defence. Now, she still made some errors, but she's not the worst person in the world at getting back to her feet. Cláudia Gadelha doesn't have the best top control. Now obviously there is the danger that you could give your back up and she could do what she done to Carolina Kowalczyk, but I don't think Grasso's a complete turtle off her back. She can get back to her feet, and she showed as well in round 3 she's got some submissions off her back. Now I don't fancy her chances of hitting them against Cláudia Gadelha, but she can get back to her feet. She isn't necessarily stuck on her back. And the thing is, once she does get back to her feet, she does put the volume on you. She's going to come heavy with volume. And Cláudia is not going to like that volume at all. She likes the fight to be fought at her own pace. We saw that against Randa Marcos. Randa let her have the perfect fight for her. But Grasso can't do that here. She's got to bring the volume, and I think she will. She's going to come heavy. She's got to make sure she doesn't get too overzealous and give up a reactive double, but she's got to put the pace on Cláudia here. So this is going to be a really interesting fight. Grasso's going to try and stay in the centre. She's going to try and circle away from the fence. Most of Cláudia's takedowns come from the body lock, especially these days. She seems to have lost a bit of explosiveness in her shot. She used to have a decent explosive double. That seems to have slowed down a bit, so most of her takedowns now are in the clinch and from the body lock, and Grasso's pretty good in the clinch. She was able to reverse Carla Esparza when she had her in the clinch. She was able to turn her and put her on the fence. She was doing the same to Randa Marcos as well. So obviously, you know, the longer she spends in the clinch, the worse for her against Cláudia Gadelha. But I think Cláudia is definitely concerned about her cardio. I don't think Cláudia is going to come out and try and wrestle hard here for 5 minutes of every round. I think we might see her try and take Alexa down early on in the fight, try and hit a body lock takedown. If Grasso can defend though that initial shot, I think it's really going to put a bit of a seed of doubt in Cláudia's mind as to whether she wants to go back to her wrestling, because she's going to be thinking, if I go for another takedown here and don't get it, that's more energy expended. It's going to be me slowing down even more. I think she's genuinely in a bit of a catch-22 where she knows where her strengths lie, but she also knows if she can't hit those takedowns or she can't hold the person down, That's energy expended for her, and that's why I think we're starting to see her game change slightly, in that she's kind of coming more of a boxer as opposed to the old Cláudia when we saw her fight Joanna, where she would constantly wrestle. Now in those fights she slowed down, but they were 5-round fights. If they were 3-round fights, she would have won. Well, the first one was that she arguably won. The second fight she would have won if it was 3 rounds. I don't think she can maintain that pace anymore. I think that's post-USADA's affected her. I don't think she can come out and wrestle like that. We just don't see her do that kind of heavy wrestling approach anymore. So Grasso really needs to, if she can stuff the first takedown, get those underhooks, turn her on the fence, disengage, really plant that seed of doubt early, I think it's going to put her in a really strong position. And also we are seeing judges award takedowns with a bit of top control less and less these days. If Alexa can get back to her feet, put some heat on her standing, the judges are going to favour that, as long as she's not been laid on for 3.5-4 minutes of the round. So it's a really interesting fight, this one. I'm really looking forward to it. I think the lines are pretty much a pick'em now, which feels fairly accurate. I think if you've got a plus number on Grasso, I think that's a solid bet. I mean, she was up at plus 150 at one point. I think that was the value there all day then. Pick'em line, I think the value's evaporating. I think that's fairly accurate. Maybe I slightly favour Grasso here, so maybe I'd have her line as a very small favourite, but you need to see some solid fight IQ from Grasso here as well, so you are relying on that to her. But if she can keep this on the feet, I think it's her fight. So I'm going to go with Grasso here to win a decision. Current line though, guys, don't think there's really any value. See if Grasso does move back to a plus number. I don't think she's going to. All the money's been coming in on her. I think fight week, I don't think the line's going to move drastically, but I wouldn't be surprised fight week to see her move to a slight favourite. So I'm going to go Grasso decision. Right, another women's fight next, the co-main event. We've got Holm taking on Raquel Pennington. No idea why this is the co-main event. I rewatched the first fight yesterday actually, and it is a terrible fight. I don't know why they would line this as the co-main event. I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to this fight because I'm not. But I think first fight was really, really close. The first 2 rounds I had trouble scoring them, to be fair. Third round was definitely Raquel's. She seemed to realise that she just needed to push forward. She did, and started letting her hands go, and she started landing, and she even dropped Holm at one point. So, that was 5 years ago. Holly's 38 now. She must have slowed down. Even if you can't see it with a naked eye, she must have slowed down slightly, being 38 years of age now. I actually thought, Raquel's kind of been hit and miss since that fight. She's had some injury problems. I know she's had some thyroid issues and whatnot, but I've been looking at her social media. She looks in pretty good shape. She looks pretty solid. I was actually pretty impressed with her stand-up against Irene Aldana. She looked pretty good on the feet. Decent hands, and I think Irene's someone that's more potent on the feet than Holly. Holly's just she's got that in and out game. She's just going to throw kicks. Pennington actually had decent success with leg kicks as well in the first fight, but she just didn't let her hands go until round 3. She needs to let her hands go earlier here. So, where's Holly at? Where's her motivation? She's 38 now. She's not getting another sniff at the title. She's coming off a loss to Amanda Nunes. She wrestled Megan Anderson fight before that. She lost the decision to Cyborg. Fight before that, she was in a very close fight with Betch Coher until she landed the head kick in round 3. I have to lean Raquel here. She's the younger girl. The first fight was very close. Holm's 5 years older now at 38. I think if anyone's lost a step, it's going to have been her. Raquel seemed to realise what she needed to do in round 3 to win that fight, so you'd think she applies that from the get-go here. I thought she looked okay against Aldana. I'll go with Raquel, especially with a plus number next to her name. Would have preferred a bigger number. I mean, it's saying here she opened at plus 230. That's absolutely nuts if that's the case. Whoever got plus 230, plus 200, plus 150. And I wish I'd kept this fight before Christmas. I didn't do it until yesterday, because that is some serious value. Crazy, crazy number. I capped Raquel as a small favourite here, so I still think there's some value there. I don't think it's a big bet at the current line, because it's no doubt going to be a close fight, and Holly could win the fight. That's why I said I only kept Raquel as a small favourite. But yeah, I think that's crazy. I am interested to see what Pennington decision will be. Just have a look. Plus 175 it's showing at the moment. I think that's got some value as well. I don't see a finish here. Holly's a tough girl. Raquel's not a finisher. Plus 175. As I've said before on this video. So yeah, you don't want to be getting too cute when you've got someone at dog money on the money line. I always say if you're going to bet the prop, like a decision prop, at least split it. So do half whatever you want to bet on the money line and then half on the decision line, because you're only going to kick yourself if Raquel ends up finishing and you've only bet Raquel decision. At least if you've bet the money line as well, you basically cover your stake on the decision prop. So but I think that's got value, that plus 175, because I just don't see a finish in this fight. But I'm picking Raquel here to win this fight. I think the value's with her. I think she should be a slight favourite. I expect her to win a decision. Right, main event time. The return of the notorious one, Conor McGregor, taking on Donald Cerrone. I don't really need to spend too much time on this fight, guys. I think it's quite clear what the likelihood of what's going to happen here. Conor, there are obviously question marks with regards to Conor. We've not seen him in the UFC besides the Khabib fight for, I think it's like 4 years now. Let's just have a little look when Eddie's fight was. So he fought Eddie back in, oh no, it was 3 years actually. So the Eddie fight was 3 years ago. So it's not as long as I actually fought. So just over 3 years. And then he fought Khabib just over a year ago. The reason I'm saying the 3 year layoff is because with the Khabib fight, we just didn't get to see normal Conor in that fight, basically because of the wrestling attack. And the wrestling obviously makes you hesitant as well. We've just not seen he's striking in full flow since the Eddie fight, basically, which is over 3 years ago. So my main reservation with regards to Conor here is because he's not really been in a striking match in MMA for just over 3 years. How's his timing going to be? Is it going to have been affected? We just don't know until he gets in there. In terms of Cerrone as a stylistic opponent, especially when there is that type of question mark, he probably couldn't have a better opponent. Donald is very hittable, he's very upright. He's not someone hard to find. He's gonna, he on paper he's tailor made for Conor. If we're getting the Conor from the Eddie Alvarez fight, or even if he's not quite as sharp, but slightly down from the Eddie fight, it's still a very good fight on paper for Conor here. Donald can mix in takedowns, but I'd be surprised if he's able to take Conor down here. I think Conor can pretty much relax and know that he's going to get a stand-up fight here with Cerrone. He's only 31 as well, Conor. It's not like he's an old man, but he's obviously had that layoff, and there are some question marks just with regards to where he's at mentally. There's been a lot of rumours and well, not all rumours, some of them we've seen on video. He obviously had some kind of meltdown, the money seemed to go to his head. So what Conor are we getting here? Are we getting a vintage prime Conor? Are we going to get a slightly reduced version of the best Conor, or are we going to get a Conor that just doesn't look the same? I think we're going to see I don't know if it's going to be a vintage best ever looking Conor, but I think we're going to get a version that's not far short of that, a version that should be dealing with Donald Cerrone. For me personally here, I think Donald Cerrone is head kick or bust. Now, I say that with all respect, because normally when I say head kick or bust, I mean it because of its real low percentage. With Donald Cerrone, I don't think it is low percentage. He's got a very effective high kick that he can land on anyone, so Conor has to be very careful with regards to that head kick. But that aside, I just don't see how he wins this fight. You know, he's good on the ground, but I don't see him getting Conor down. Conor's got decent takedown defence. It's not as bad as everyone makes out, and his ground game's not as bad as everyone makes out either. The other side actually that could get interesting is the longer this fight goes. We know Conor's gas tank isn't the greatest, so the longer the fight goes, the more of a chance Donald will have to come into the fight. Donald doesn't slow down. He's got a really good gas tank. He'll be able to stay in there for 5 rounds, but it's just whether he can last against the firepower of Conor, because if Conor's laser beams are firing on all cylinders, then he's going to be getting hit a lot, especially early. And I don't think he can hold up to that. He is a bit shot worn now, Donald. He's had 50 professional fights. He fights very regular. He's got 6 knockout losses. He's coming off a bad knockout loss against Justin Gaethje. Took a bad beatdown before that against Tony Ferguson. The miles are piling up. Conor's probably getting him at a really good time in that sense as well. It's kind of all the pieces are falling to make this look like a really spectacular return for Conor. So I have to go with Conor here. As I said, with the question marks around how's his timing going to be, what version of Conor are we getting, and the longer the fight goes, the more it definitely, I'm not saying it favours Cerrone, but his chances definitely increase the longer the fight goes. But Conor's always shown a really solid chin. I mean, he's never been stopped by strikes. The guy can take a shot. So, Cerrone's probably going to have to be the first man to knock out Conor to get this W. I just can't see it. Because of the question marks, I don't think there's much value on the -300. Conor could come out and knock him out in round 1 and make it look like a great line, but just with the question marks we've got and just surrounding Conor, I can't be betting him at -300. I think anyone that got him around the -200 mark or better, I think that's a solid play. I think that's worth the risk with the question marks. We opened at -160 it sounds, so anyone that got on that's a solid bet. Conor to win by KO is up at, it's -200 now. I think if anyone got on that around the -150 mark, once the money, because I know that it was sitting at -150, money line had already shot up, so I don't think that was a bad play around the -150 mark for Conor to win by knockout. So I am going to pick Conor here, but there are some question marks for me, so it stops me from making a big bet on Conor here, because on paper, stylistically, he couldn't have asked for a better comeback fight here, especially when you bear in mind Cerrone is shot worn there. He's coming off a couple of knockout losses. It looks like it's tailor-made. The UFC know what they're doing as well. They want Conor to win this fight. They want to be setting up these big fights. They want Conor back in the news. So on paper, yeah, it's definitely a favourable matchup for him, and I will go with Conor. I just think Cerrone's just taken a bit too much damage, and he's had, those last 2 fights were rough, man. So I'm going to go with Conor to return here with a victory. So that wraps up the card, guys. As I said, packages are available, ProMMABetting.com. 95% of our members are on the yearly, only £195 for 12 months for live betting and pre-bets. You're going to be getting probably over 100 events a year that we've either got pre-betting or live betting on. Members last year that bet £100 per unit made £14,500. So let's try and surpass that this year. Any questions, drop me a tweet or DM me at Pro MMA Betting. Website with the packages, as I said, ProMMABetting.com. Go to premium bets, they're all listed there. You can pay via PayPal, and please like this video and subscribe. I'll be back. I've dropped this really early, so the next video will probably be dropped week of. So I'll be back for the next UFC on the 25th of Jan. I'll drop the video probably early part of that week. I need to start on that card actually. I've done one fight. One tip's gone out to members for that card, but it's one that I really need to dig into tape because nothing's standing out pre-tape really. But this is a good card for betting. I like this. Members have 5 tips. I think they might be getting a 6th one. Every single bet we sent out early before Christmas, we've beaten the line movement on every single bet. So I'm happy that we've taken those bets. Line movement has proven us correct. Obviously the fights haven't occurred yet, so we might not be proven right once all is said and done, but we've beaten the line movement as we always do. So that's why I try and get the bets out to members as early as possible. So good luck everyone. Hope you've not been digging in and betting on other sports during the downturn, but the MMA season is back now, so stop betting on football and all that other crap where you've got no clear edge. Stick to where you win money and you'll make money long term. So good luck everyone. Over and out.